Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV. I'm Jeff, an under-the-weather version of Jeff. Could not go into the studio today. Don't want to get everybody sick. What are you going to do? Sharing microphones and studios and the like? Can't do that, but we wanted to be able to do a show. I do have enough energy for that, especially because today, by the way, gang, and I don't want to jinx it. We'll see. But maybe two interviews. Definitely one. Adam Fuller, the defensive coordinator for Florida State, going to join us in hour number 2. Look forward to talking to Adam Fuller as there have been some changes there. He's got more weapons to use. A lot of questions about what he sees this defense being this year and certain perhaps position changes. I don't know. I'll ask the questions. We'll find out. But I am excited about talking to Adam. He's always I always kind of appreciate his candor. He's a pretty straightforward guy and informative as well. We'll talk to Adam Fuller today. And like I said, maybe a second interview that actually will precede the Fuller interview. So I'll let you know. That said, I don't often lead fourth game of the season with baseball, but they pound Jacksonville last night, and the top of the lineup doing the vast majority of the damage. It's a beautiful thing to see. Now, again, a singular result after the weekend that was, which was good, is not enough to necessarily get you pumped up. But let me say this, and here is something that does in a small sample size, and I think this is why people were very, very interested to see how Link Jarrett would respond or talk about Cam Smith. And you're talking about a young player coming in to a program where obviously they needed an influx of talent and life and perhaps a little shot in the arm. But there are expectations galore for that kid, and Link did not downplay those when we interviewed him last week. He was like, oh, yeah, no, the talent's all there. He's really gifted, and wait till you see him play third base and all of those things. Well, the reason I bring this up is that obviously he had a good weekend against James Madison and did some things that kind of eye-opening. Good footwork over at third, hit a ball off of his knees to the wall in center field, hit his first home run, hit another one last night, ended up doing serious damage again. It's rare, guys, that a true freshman rolls on into college baseball. I don't care that it's James Madison and Jacksonville, and adjusts to the pressures that come with being a highly touted recruit, but then also the elevation of quality in terms of pitches and at-bats that you have to have. I'm not saying he's going to be Buster Posey or J.D. Drew or John Ford Griffin or any of these superstars that have been around that came in as well thought of prospects. I'm just saying he's off to a good start, man. He's off to a really good start. Unaffected would be the word that I would use for that young man. And if you're going to glean something from last night beyond the pitching was good for Florida State, obviously they pound out 15 hits. I'm looking at him and Tibbs. Tibbs batting, well, if you go back, I know the Sunday game was great, but Tibbs should have had multiple hits prior to that Sunday game, balls that he absolutely tattooed. And if you recall last year, I had a little bit of a love affair with Tibbs. That was as sweet and compact and fluid emotion as you could see. I thought he was destined to be a great hitter, was dealing with some injuries. That's a kid that, when healthy, I think has a chance to be a superstar. Now you pair him with another guy in this lineup that obviously has the tools to become an elite player early in his career. That is something to get excited about. I don't think I'm overstating it, Tom. I don't. I think that is something to get excited about.
Yeah, look, the top of the order has been outstanding. The team as a whole is opting over 1,100. That's nuts. It's 45 runs in 4 games. This is against lesser competition. I have a feeling when they go to Dallas this weekend, the Fort Worth area, that they might get smacked around a little bit by TCU. But I think it would be probably higher scoring baseball games. I think that's what we're looking forward to this weekend. It's a great test. You have passed with flying colors your first 4 games, but now you step up in competition. How far along are you really in this first-year trial and experiment for Link Jarrett? The numbers are going to come down. You're not going to ops over 1,000 as a baseball club. That's just crazy. But it all starts with Diamez Ross at the top of the order as well. He's been really impressive. He's 2 for 2 in steals this season. He's been a force on the base pass, and he's consistently getting on the base pass. He's opting 1,000 through 4 games in his college career, and that means that you have 2 freshmen. 2 freshmen leading the way and setting the tone in the lineup. The future is bright. We already feel that way because of Link Jarrett's presence, but you can already see that in terms of the batting order. Now, the question is going to be the pitching staff and then also the defense. They have 8 errors already as a team. 8. That's way, way, way too many. And as you play better teams on the schedule, you give them extra outs. We know what happens and what can happen over a 3-game series with a pitching staff as you give a 28th out, a 29th, and a 30th. That extends everybody, and it makes the likelihood of winning 2 out of 3 a whole lot harder. But it looks like this offensive approach and this lineup, at least from the top side of it, is going to be pretty good all season long. But again, big test this weekend. Looking forward to that as they take on TCU for 3.
Yeah, you mentioned the top of the order. You get 3 hits, a walk, and a stolen base again. You're talking about what they're able to do there. Carry on hit last night too, by the way, and we have high hopes for him.
He's been absurd for the first 4 games. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's been really, really good. And I think there's real talent there too. You remember before the season began, one of the things that I brought up about being excited, it wasn't just the presence of Link. It was that it brought fresh air to a clubhouse that was in a stale situation. It gave them the opportunity, a new lease on life. Sometimes when things go wrong, and I'm not here to relitigate all of this, but when you have a familiar voice, which was an extension of the voice before it, and things start to go south, you can really see things slide in such a way that even the upper crust talent begins to fall back into the fold in the malaise of average or below average. And I really think that just the shot in the arm, that a new set of eyes, an enthusiasm for the job, obviously Link is going to have that being a former All-American here. It's his dream job. People can feed off that. They can feel that. You know, he's hitting the ground running. He has since the first time we talked to him, with the subtle changes all the way to the big changes, what they're doing on a day-to-day basis at practice to analyze swings with the cameras and all the stuff that he added very quickly. And then an approach it's an approach that is, I think, consistent. I think you'll watch them have good at-bats. To your point about the offense this year, I think you're going to see good at-bats. I think you're going to see this team shorten up with 2 strikes and put the ball in play. In college baseball, that's a big deal, Tom, because not everybody picks up the ball cleanly. As you're noting, we don't pick up the ball cleanly. But listen, that's college baseball. 8 errors, you'd like to have less. That's 2 a game. That's not ideal. It's college baseball. You're going to average maybe 1.5 a game. So I'll live with it. I'll live with that, especially if you're going to pound the baseball.
If you are, but yeah, you can't field 950 for the year. Like, that's just unacceptable.
No, but you can field 980, and I think they can get to there, 970.
That's closer to 1 error a game. And look, one of them last night was Oxford in the 3rd or the 4th inning. And he got out of it himself, strikes out the side after actually putting a runner on 3rd with nobody outs, because it's a 2-base error on a simple-ass throw to 1st, and then there's a wild pitch to get the runner to 3rd. Actually, he's got some impressive stuff. I mine in the midweek for dudes who can get the swing and miss in a key situation. I grant you it's Jacksonville, but that's who you got as your opponent right now, so that's all we have to work on. It's going to be interesting to see how this all shakes out with the staff. We didn't like what happened. Jamie Arnold on Sunday was a little rough. That was a rough go for a first outing. It's a tough deal. First start at Hauser on Sunday. Man. So it's tough to sort through all the noise early in the season. There's not enough data to consider. But it just looks like so far, through 4 games, the offense is going to be the consistent part. The defense is going to be a little rough. And then the pitching staff is still to be determined. But if you get an answer in one of those 2 places, the pitching or the defense, to go along with the top half of this order. And who knows, maybe Jordan Carrion's just a beast all season long. If he is, then you've got yourself a fearsome batting lineup that's extended down through the bottom half, and you could be a team that makes some noise in the top 25, and maybe we're talking about an accelerated curve here. But, I mean, it's James Madison in Jacksonville. I think everybody's excited. They want to know the answers. And I will say this, too, just behind the curtain. I talked about this on the Smash the other night. The traffic that we're getting, multimedia-wise for baseball is as high as it's been in a long, long time. So we're not alone in speaking with enthusiasm about this program. More people are tuning in, so to speak, across our various channels.
I said before the start of the year they'd be a top 25 team. They'd break into that top 25. They would pace the expectations of many. That is because you have, again, an injection of life in an otherwise dark place, which was that clubhouse last year. And again, that was an ugly situation. There were rumblings of player revolt. There were certainly multiple missives written by parents of players about that situation. There were losses mounting, poor base running mistakes on a daily basis. The amount of errors made and the kind of it was hard to watch them play the game last year. And so I kept thinking, look, man, the evaluation of those players, if we believed in something that Mike Martin Jr. did well, it was the evaluation of players. His track record was proven. His track record's been proven for a long period of time as a recruiter and as somebody who can assess what somebody will be. So I knew the roster was not devoid of talent. It was the other stuff that began to collect and pile up. And at some point, this isn't unlike Jimbo Fisher, by the way. The 2014 roster was as loaded as you could have, and they found a way to make every game close, and there were problems in the locker room there. It was the beginning of the end, and not a lot of people wanted to admit that in the course of an undefeated season. I think you could make the argument that the trip out to Omaha and 11s last year was a crazy outlier, an amazing road series victory that we attended in Louisiana and Baton Rouge. To watch that happen was awesome. We all wanted that for 11. But there were issues and things that portend of problems to be even during that run, even during that season. And so I felt like you saw a lot of parallels where the culture was going south. The culture was going south. And if the culture goes south, hey, by the way, we apply this to basketball. Apply it to basketball. I hate it, but we got to have the conversation. Clearly, the culture's gone south with the basketball team. That's not a good situation. Now, you marry that with a whole bunch of losses, and you have a disaster on your hands. You have a dumpster fire. You have a situation that has to be dealt with maybe sooner rather than later, not in a way that you wanted. None of us want that. Nobody's rooting for that. We all hope that it can be in some ways rectified and quickly. I just don't know that it can be. And we'll see. They've got an erosion of culture. They're not winning games. And you have a 74-year-old head coach that will be 75 before the start of next year. Does he have the energy, the time, the ability to get this turned around? And how big is the transfer portal really going to be for this Florida State basketball team as you try to flip the roster and change the culture? Because who's flocking to this right now? It's a real problem. It looks like we fixed baseball's problem for now. We'll see what the season is. I think they're going to play the right way. I think they're going to play smart, play hard. They're going to be better than people think. They're going to be good on offense. They'll be average on defense. This basketball program, that's another story. I don't know what to think of that other than I think they're in real trouble.
I refuse to talk about that right now. Baseball it is. Baseball it is. Yes, it is an eroded culture. They quit often. They're soft. So they're over there. We'll figure it out. We'll see what Michael Alford does in the offseason.
Well, that's the thing. It's fun to watch that. I mean, it's the program. We can't ignore it. We can't not talk about it. We can't pretend it's not happening. It's a big deal. We love that guy, the accomplishments of that man, and what he did for the program. But we also have to be here to document the downside. And it's not fun. Nobody likes to do it, but we got to do it.
No, agreed. What I would say, to put a footnote on the past for baseball, because it looks like things are trending obviously in the right direction. Jacksonville went 5-0 to start last year. They documented on the broadcast. They went 22-28 the rest of the way. So, it doesn't matter with fast starts. Sometimes we could have a rude awakening this weekend and say, defense sucks, the pitching sucks, the hitting's pretty good, but when you lose 10-5, 3 games this weekend, then what good is it? There's still some repairing to be done. The one thing I would say is that Meat's only shot was the pandemic year. They started out fast in 2020, and the season got shut down within a couple of weeks. From there, I think whatever issues there were began to reapply and fester again.
Yeah.
And going to that regional in Auburn last year, I expected to see much more hunky-doriness, if you will, because they were coming off of a win over UCLA. I get there on day 2 for the winner's bracket matchup against Auburn, and yet there was still an undercurrent of problems among the people that were close to the program. I thought, oh my God, is that right? I thought I was going to come here to a happy pregame tailgate. Let's see what we could do to Auburn. And then about 2 hours later, you see why, as it is an excruciatingly awful loss in which the toxicity rose to the surface in the FSU section to a level that I had never seen before. And so it wasn't surprising to see that a change was made. But from here we move on. Meat did load up the roster. That was an excellent signing class that they were able to retain, but it wouldn't have been there in that place if it wasn't for Meat. Now what can Link do with it? And I think that they could do some interesting things. And this weekend series with TCU is just, it's kind of like a little probe. It's like, all right, I see you. You're working, but how good can you be? Because if they take 2 out of 3 this weekend, then it gets silly.
I always, and I hear you. We always caution folks, maybe even folks that are new to baseball, and I don't want to chide, but you cannot, and you don't do this, neither do I, but I would just suggest it for those that are watching closely now or maybe have been re-energized by this hire. You cannot apply a football mentality to baseball. If Florida State sweeps TCU this weekend, that's a big if. It doesn't mean they're going to the College World Series.
No.
Doesn't mean they're going to win the ACC. Doesn't mean they're the team to beat. Doesn't mean they're going to be a top 8 national seed. It's exciting in and of itself. Apply it to that. Learn some lessons about the bigger picture of this team in terms of what they have offensively, what they have defensively, and what they have from a pitching standpoint. The same is true if they get swept this weekend. It doesn't mean that they're not any good and that their only wins are against bad teams. It doesn't mean that they're going to finish middle of the pack of the ACC. It might, but it doesn't mean that because of that weekend's results. It doesn't mean that they're not going to be a good team by season's end or that they're going to be terrible. Neither is true. A sweep one way or the other.
Yeah.
If they win 15-1 or they lose 15-1, it's not telling you the complete story of anything. It's a result of a baseball game. And baseball is the weirdest damn sport. It is meant to be played over a long swath of days and weeks and months, because that is the only way you get a clear picture of what a team is. And that's why the playoffs in Major League Baseball is so different than the regular season a lot of times. I mean, you just got to get into the dance in postseason baseball and you got a shot, especially if you got an ace. So it's just really weird, right? You know, that's all I'm saying. Let's all check off the boxes as we go along and not go crazy one way or the other about what this means.
The good thing is, though, that perception is reality when it comes to national seeding. And if there's a 50-50, if you made an early season statement, then, you know, the host of the committee for NCAA is more likely to select you as a host. And I know I'm putting the cart before the horse, but you have to look at the calendar and say that this is a massive opportunity. TCU is number 8 in the country.
Oh, it's a big deal. It's a big series, by the way. It's a real big series.
And
I'm not downplaying the importance of the series. I'm not downplaying how excited I am about the series and what it might tell us. I'm just saying that we don't want to put all our eggs in the basket of a series on the road against TCU the first time they're playing a really good opponent on the road. It's not going to tell us whether they're great or horrible.
Agreed. I'm not saying that you're doing that. But what I am saying is that is followed by a midweek game with USF, Gulf Coast, Bethune, Pitt, UCF for 2, and Boston College before you play Florida. So if you take 2 out of 3 this weekend, there's a chance, and the Bats do what they've done, there's a chance you could mash your way into the middle of March with an exceptional record.
Oh, sure.
And the perception is on your side. That's all I'm saying, is that this is a huge opportunity because at least on paper, and baseball's not played on paper, we know this, but at least on paper, the next few weeks worth of the schedule is really gettable. And at that point, you are ranked in the top 15 or the top 10, and this thing is sped up. And then there's a chance we could be playing baseball games in the summer. Well, at least Tallahassee summer might not be technically on the calendar. 100-degree temperatures at Dick Howser Stadium for a regional or super regional, and that's really fun. I love those weekends. They're special to me. I would like to have another one of those this weekend, this year at minimum.
Could have left out the 100-degree temperature part. The picture that was being painted was perfect until you mentioned the temperature as we enter the Hauser. It's at that point, not even the standing puddles can survive at Dick Howser Stadium. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV.
Line 9, 1755, near Fort Duquesne, now the city of Pittsburgh. A 23-year-old British officer leads his troops in battle during the French and Indian War. Though fired upon repeatedly, this young lieutenant colonel remains unharmed to the disbelief of the native warriors. 15 years later, a respected chief sat over a council fire with this same man. As he told all those listening, the Great Spirit protects this man and guides his destiny. He will become the chief of nations, and a people yet unborn will hail him as the founder of a mighty empire. The man was George Washington, who went on to become the commander-in-chief of the Continental Army and the first president of the United States. Celebrating our nation's quest for freedom. Whitten Glass on South Monroe for mirrors, shower enclosures, and window glass. Call 222-5781. And Sellers Tile on Capitol Circle Northeast for tile, carpet, hardwood, and luxury vinyl. Call 656-8453.
Let's be honest, we all have way too much stuff. Maybe your storage closet is full, your garage is full, or the guest bedroom is a mess. Call Southeast Portable Buildings, 580-6400, or visit them online at southeastportablebuildings.com.
When you need a plumber quick, how long is an acceptable time to have to wait?
Yeah, hey, it's the Millers again. Just calling you about our little plumbing problem.
2 hours?
Hey, we were hoping you can get here soon because the water is getting really bad. I mean, please hurry.
4 hours?
I know you said you were on your way, but, honey, tell the kids to drink water.
8 hours?
Don't worry about us. We're fine.
At M&L Plumbing, you'll never have to wait long for quality, dependable service right when you need it. At M&L Plumbing, we listen to our customers, and our qualified technicians aim to achieve 100% customer satisfaction. So the next time you need plumbing work or repairs, think of the name M&L Plumbing, your local plumbing experts, commercial or residential. Give us a call, 850-575-9393, or visit us online at mndlplumbing.com. M&L Plumbing, for all of your plumbing needs.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
Hi, this is Jamie McClenny from Trek Financial in Tallahassee. Managing downside risk in your portfolio is one of the biggest challenges that you'll face in retirement. Trillions of dollars in stimulus from the Federal Reserve and D.C. politicians, combined with zero interest rates, have propped up financial markets since the financial crisis ended in 2009. The Fed recently ended quantitative easing and has started to raise interest rates at a time when the global economy was already slowing. Have you considered what another 50% correction in the stock market would do to your retirement plan? If you're concerned about where this all might be headed and would like to find out about the potential benefits of an active risk management strategy for your portfolio, give me a call at 850-900-5200 and schedule a time for a review of your portfolio from an active risk management perspective.
Make Jamie your first call for a second opinion. Investment advisory services are offered through Trek Financial, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Welcome back to the Jeff Cameron Show, sponsored by Legendary Home Loans, a mortgage experience designed around speed, simplicity, and customer service. Before you buy your next home, contact our friend Shannon Young with Legendary Home Loans. Visit FSUHomeLoans.com. FSUHomeLoans.com.
Mentioned it at the top of the show. Want to mention it again here as you could be driving around, just popping in, listening on the radio on 93.3 FM, or if you just joined us on Warchant TV. Adam Fuller, the defensive coordinator for Florida State, set to join us next hour. Looking forward to talking with Adam. Actually, just on the heels of that, I should mention that we got the good news today in the inbox. I'm sure, Tom, you saw this as well. Derek reaching out and letting us all know that the pre-spring media luncheon will take place next Friday, not this upcoming Friday, but next Friday, March the 3rd. And Mike Norvell's press conference will begin sharply, no doubt, at 11:30. So that will take place. Look forward to hearing from Mike again. And it's during that luncheon that we get the opportunity to talk to the other coaches. All of them, in fact, are made available, and some players oftentimes too. So that's always fun. We'll get out in front of that meeting this week with our own Adam Fuller one-on-one, and then we'll talk to him again next week and amongst others. So we look forward to doing that. And I think frankly, it's always a fun time because it signifies we're really close to action starting, things to really report on, things to get excited about. You also get a little bit clearer picture of expectations, who's available, who isn't available. Perhaps sometimes they'll reveal some changes on the roster in terms of a guy going to another position or flipping sides of the ball. Those kinds of things get revealed oftentimes if the question's asked pointedly enough. So some further clarification. It's almost go time. This is the last week of February. And it's funny, for as long as January lasted, February has been a blip on the radar, which is fine with me because March is when spring starts, and I want March to get here because I am ready for spring football practice in a way that I haven't been in years.
Yeah, this is where I will always be the rose-colored glasses media guy because the policies that Mike Norvell has are just whoop ass. They're the best. I never got to experience Bobby Bowden's open door policy from back in the day in which there were, the Sunday morning breakfast with coach and carte blanche, whatever you wanted for practice. You show up, you get access, you could pull a player aside. Like, I wasn't here for any of that. The first thing I ever covered was his final game in Jacksonville. Like, that was the Gator Bowl against West Virginia. So I never knew that media policy. Jimbo Fisher was quite good for his first year because he was trying to ingratiate himself to the media. He knew that there was a bit of a rebuild. From there, it was kind of on lockdown. And this policy is just the best. This is like, I want him to succeed for many reasons. As a citizen of the city of Tallahassee, it's good for business. It's good for business to all of our vendors and our sponsors when Florida State's good. Hell, we're alums, so there's that level of it as well. But, man, if we have to go back to the days of you get the first 15 minutes for stretch and then your ass is out, that is awful. I don't want that. I love this luncheon because everybody is subdued. They're willing to open up and talk and have dialogue. And then you get the formal in front of the microphone and the camera interviews. And then it's go time on Monday where you get to see the work that these kids have put in the training room as it pertains to putting on shells. The good thing is actually before Friday's luncheon, we will be there Thursday morning for the final tour of duty workout. So you'll be able to see some of the newcomers. I remember last year, the first guy that jumped off the page, A.Z. Thomas. He looked different. So I wonder is that Hakeem Williams? Is that somebody else? Next Thursday when we go over there, it's going to be fun to see.
Given that we have stood next to Hakeem Williams as he wore the shirt, I am him.
Yeah.
I think that's the answer. That yes, he will look very impressive because he already has looked very impressive physically. But we will get to see him run. We will get to see him work out. We will get to see that aspect beyond just what we've seen of his high school tape and what we've seen of him standing in person as opposed to moving. So, yeah, I got you. I'm excited about that, too. I'm excited for so many position groups that it gets to be so repetitive. I keep talking about it because, to me, you really can go every group. Even for non-starters, you can go every group. I mean, yesterday on Seminole Headlines, I brought up, don't forget, we brought in a kicker from ETSU. I mean, we've got competitive balance, Tom. The thing that we're looking for, competitive balance. We got it here, buddy. Yeah. This is what Major League Baseball is starving for. Now you have it right here in our own backyard.
Yeah.
Competition at every position.
There's probably 5 dudes that are safe that are holdovers from last year. And it's Jordan, Trey Benson, Mastromano, and the 2 linebackers. Is that about it? Everybody else is battling?
Yeah, and by the way, I would argue, well, I don't know that I'd make a strong argument, but I certainly might argue in favor of let's see what Blake Nicholson is. Let's see how quickly he can adapt because that's an athlete now. And he's thick for a freshman, so we'll see, man. I hope that he's capable of making an impact. I don't expect him to as a true freshman, but let's hope. I mean, stranger things have happened. We've seen players come in and have some gifts that not all freshmen have and have the ability to get on the field early, so it's not impossible.
Yeah, the whole thing to me is, how are you going to divvy up your time with these practices? Because you get 3 of them. I think it is. There may be 4, but I'm pretty sure it's 3 before they break for spring break. You get a week off around the first week of March Madness, St. Patrick's week. All the kids locally in town are gone. So it's nice that Florida State mirrors that as an institution. And then also football practice takes a bit of a breather. But, all of those minutes now are critical. There are some camps where you want to see the skill position players only. There are some camps where you want to focus on a quarterback battle. Every year it's a little bit different. This year, you talk about the competition of receiver versus defensive back, offensive line versus defensive line, the backup quarterback battle. If they've got drills that involve, linebacker pursuit of running backs, things like it's all interesting because you're right. There's competition across the board. You can learn something from every part of the practice field and the practice operation. There are times when it is a waste of time to look at one position battle because that the offensive line is so bad that the defensive lineman can't learn a damn thing about practice. The only time that they're going to be tested is in a game. That's not the case anymore. There's competition within a segment group, and then there's competition across the football on the other side from the competition they're going to see day to day. I don't know if we're going to have to do like it was old PE class and go station to station ourselves to get a breadth of understanding, or if we're going to have specialty roles, but I'm looking forward to it. This is a lot of data to crunch, and it's about time. It's been only 2 months since they played their bowl game, but it's been a long 2 months.
January was. Good Christ. I will say this. Yesterday when we were talking about the depth chart and the competition, there was a moment where we were talking about Dennis Briggs. You and I have talked about this off the air. Mm-hmm. I really have high expectations and hopes, frankly, for that young man. You know how angry I was about the cheap shot. He was engaged. It was intentional. All of that still pisses me off. And I would pretty much for the rest of my career as a head coach be injuring Louisville players if I had the opportunity. But that said, that's just vindictive me. For him, he was a rising star. A lot of fans do not realize how much they thought they had in him, meaning the coaches, what they thought he was going to be. A player with a dual skill set to slide inside and outside. A lot of times, if you're not a fierce pass rusher, if you're not, preternaturally fast and coming off the edge the way that a verse does when we see like that quickness sometimes is alarming, right? Then you don't often get Patrick Payton at times. You don't get the same sort of admiration at that position as opposed to the guy that sets the edge, Keir Thomas, guys like that who are just as vital. They just fill a different role. Briggs was a guy that I thought was multifaceted, got hurt, never looked right last year. Just never looked right. So if I want to throw more fuel on the fire of high hopes and anticipation of great things, I'll point to a guy like that who I thought at the end of the year, if you go back in the FSU Oklahoma game, go back and watch that last play. He beats a double team, lickety split, and it gets overshadowed by Verse, but he's there. And you saw glimpses of it late in the year. If he returns to the trajectory he was on, Florida State has a plus player on that defensive line that is largely being ignored in the bigger discussion of these competitions that we reference all the time. We kind of tend to, or I read and hear people kind of reference him as just another guy, a jag. I don't think he's that. I think a healthy version of him is he's a plus player, further adding to your opportunities and depth and, the multiple looks and fronts that you can give offenses. He's a guy that allows you to be more multiple, which is a big deal because I think Florida State has to get more multiple.
Yeah, if you're talking first and second down, I think just looking at the depth chart right now, end is the more natural place for him to play. You're kind of loaded in the middle. I don't know that defensive tackle is where you want him to be in a neutral down and distance situation. And if that's the case, and let's just say that the development is to that level, or the long-term rehab, if you want to term it that way, is to a good level for Briggs, then you've got the following in the equation at defensive end. You got Verse, McClendon, Patrick Payton, Gilbert Edmond, the transfer.
Who I'm excited to see, yeah.
Dennis Briggs, and then if Turner develops into anything, now you're talking about immense depth at defensive end. As we've talked about the line in general this offseason, all I've been focused on is the depth at the interior positions where you've got veteran depth, and then you've also got some young guys that are up and on the rise, and that, rounds out to about 7 or 8 dudes that you could, in theory, by the time fall camp is over, rotate in a game and not be, holding your breath. Defensive end, I've struggled to get past 2 or 3 guys that you really like. But if Briggs is a developed player and Edmond from South Carolina is good, now you're talking about you've got a rotation there as well where they can go 100% on fewer reps. And if you develop another guy or two, like a Turner, then you're actually secretly and sneakily kind of loaded at defensive end as well. That's going to be something that'll be interesting to see throughout the drills. I love watching the trenches, but maybe Adam Fuller will go into it. Maybe he'll talk about some of those roles now that they've got a bunch of bodies and talented ones to throw at the problem on defense. And maybe that can help shore up some of the issues that we saw towards the end of the season, which was utter domination by the Florida offensive line, and then a pretty good lesson taught to us by the Oklahoma offensive line as well.
And I would certainly tell people and mention this repeatedly without having to be the guy that's the sourpuss to all of our grand expectations. But, you know, this is going to get interesting. I know I'm going to be the guy on staff that pours water on all of this, and I hate that I'm already falling into this role. But when I hear you say loaded, I know what you mean. But I'm comparing this to loaded in terms of elite national championship contending depth. And in no way are they loaded. They have players that are plus players compared to where we've been, guys that within the ACC can give you really responsible and even plus reps. Are they game changers, dominant players beyond the starters? On the edges, I don't think so. In the interior, maybe. It's close. I think you've got – because look at our starters, Tom, on the interior. Are those Georgia-level defensive tackles, Ohio State-level defensive tackles, Michigan-level defensive tackles? I mean, a few other spots you can name. I don't know. I wish we had the opportunity to take the same tour that we do every day over there at our practice fields to some of those that we seek to compete with.
Yeah, I hear you. I just don't think it's a dead issue, as in a non-starter and a no with a defensive interior, because you got a couple things going on here. I liken this again to college basketball. You've got super seniors leading the way with Fisk and Lovett, and I think that counts for something. You know, these are natural freaks that are playing at Georgia, and when you go to the second team or the third team practice field, you're going to be wowed across the board in a way that you won't be at Florida State's practice.
That's my point.
100%. But you're also talking about maturing body types and kids that aren't fully grown into who they're going to be. And so they've got all the natural tools, but there has to be a refinement to what they're going to develop into. Whereas you got a couple 23-year-olds here that are going to be leading the way for FSU. And then behind them, and I'm assuming that Darrell Jackson's not going to start. Maybe that's a bad assumption on my part. Maybe he is one of the two starters. But that dude is a plus ACC player at minimum.
Absolutely.
At minimum. And then from there, you've got some younger players who might develop into a little something too. And when you have that rotation, that strengthens. It's the tide that raises all boats. I think that if you had, let's just say Georgia had two of their studs that are 5-star-ish type players, and they've got a lot of them in the defensive interior, but they had to play 85% of the snaps all game, maybe they're not as good either. And the fact that they can rotate it in and out makes the whole operation more, fearsome. Looks like we're going to have one hell of a rotation this year.
Yeah, and I think it's a very plus rotation from the ACC's standpoint. I think it will enable us to dominate football games and probably win a lot of football games this year. I think that what I've done in my head is make the transition, and maybe too soon. I've made the transition from I want us to be good to I want us to be great. I want us to be national championship great. I want us to compete for titles now. This is now the next step. So when people hear me talk about this, or I sound like I'm kind of softening expectations, I'm comparing it to national championship level play, not ACC level play. I think I more than agree with you that this rotation now is plus all throughout the ACC. This is a weak league. We better be that. I want us to transcend that. We've got to get beyond this sorry-ass league and go to where you can dominate on a Saturday against an upper crust team in the Big Ten or the SEC. And that's how I'm comparing these players. Are they of that ilk? Some of them are.
Yeah, I think your starters will be, and we'll see about.
I mean, Verse is for sure. I mean, Jared Verse is.
Dennis Briggs can help redefine that question to bring it back to the original player. He can help redefine the answer to that question, I should say.
Yeah.
Because if he is a plus player and you have him versus Peyton, and then you figure it out with Edmond or McClendon or whoever else, then yeah, I mean, you've got yourself, again, a rotation where it's not the same when your starter leaves the field, but it's not awful when he does.
Edmonds is also a big key here. You're right to bring him up a couple of times. He's played a lot of football for South Carolina. We rated that damn roster, a beautiful thing. But I'll tell you what, I mean, if we look at him and he's got that SEC body, remember when we saw Jermaine Johnson and we were like, whoa, and I'm not saying he's going to be Jermaine Johnson, but when we saw that, we went, oh, my goodness, that's different. If you got another guy that looks like something similar and he can do that, I mean, then you're seeing this, suddenly the floor is raised quite a bit.
Find me a Keir on this roster. It could be him, could be somebody else. But if you can find me a Keir Thomas and then you can just stuff Peyton and Verse on the other side in third and obvious, I mean, or on the field at the same time in third and obvious, you're going to get off the field. The question is, how good does this defense need to be in order to be a playoff contender? How good does this defense need to be in order to be able to compete with a Georgia?
Well, let's talk about that in a second here in the next segment, because I that's a good question. I like it. I want you to revisit that as soon as we come back from the break. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. My man Eddie.
Jeff, what's happening, dude?
Bears eating people all over the place. I read another article today. It's the third one in the last month of somebody getting mauled to death by a bear.
Man, bears have their own space. You got to let them have that.
You do. You got to stay clear of bears, is what you're saying?
Yes.
I got a question for you. Here you go. If you had to be mauled to death, eaten alive by any animal in the world, which would you choose to eat you alive?
Ooh, I think maybe I'd want, I don't know, longevity time, a mouse.
Just a slow burn.
Slow burn.
This thing just finished the pinky. It's been a month.
I could go to work. I could still do my thing. I could probably live 30 years.
I thought you were going to say great white because it'd be quick, or a grizzly. We went with mouse.
Yeah, mouse.
Okay. Mouse it is. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Hey, Greg Tish here along with
Matty Rowe.
And you can listen to us Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Real Talk 93.3. Matt, we give away a couple things each week.
Just a few.
We got the Florida Farm Bureau Insurance Wheel of Food. We have Give Me a Second, where we play a second of a song and you guess that song. And we also play FLA or Nay. We have a lot of fun Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on
The Greg Tish Show.
Think that's enough?
We can talk about our feelings.
That's a lot.
The Greg Tish Show, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. only on Real Talk 93.3. The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
A moment ago, Tom asked, the question is, how good do we have to be, we were talking about the defense, to be an ACC level dominant team and a playoff team on defense? Or how good do you have to be a national championship contender? And it's weird, right? Because, and I'm kind of paraphrasing Tom's question. That's pretty much how you said it, right?
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things that I bring up here is that it's odd to say, but we just saw it. It's odd to say that somebody could be a playoff contender and not a national championship contender. But I really think that's the truth. TCU was not a national championship contender. They did play for the national title. So you can say, well, by definition, you're wrong. You watch that game? Did they belong anywhere near the same field as Georgia? At every position, they were weaker. Everyone. It wasn't close. They were dominated across the board. And they could play that game 10 times. It would always be lopsided. Now, that doesn't mean TCU didn't deserve to be there. It doesn't mean they weren't a worthy playoff team. They were. They beat Michigan. That was a hell of a win. Michigan kicked themselves, obviously, repeatedly in that first half, but it doesn't matter. TCU took advantage, won the game, got to play for a national title. Good for them. Great story of college football. Could Florida State do that? They could. I will concede that Florida State could do that. Do I think they're a legit national championship contender right now with this roster? I don't. And it's such a fine line. I think they need another year or two of building up this roster with high caliber upper crust players to reach that place. They have it at quarterback right now. They have it with Jared Verse right now. They might have it with a couple of offensive linemen and a couple of defensive linemen. They do not have it at linebacker. We've got a ton of questions about the secondary. We just don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. Maybe Fintrell Cypress comes in and he's great. It's possible. I'm looking forward to seeing that. It's entirely possible. Maybe Azareye'h Thomas takes the next step and plays to the ability that his athleticism and his length suggests he should. All of a sudden, you got a different secondary if those two things happen, admittedly. But we don't know that yet. They haven't done that yet. We haven't seen that yet. We don't know what's going to happen at safety yet. We don't think that they're high caliber at linebacker. We don't think that beyond the front two, the top two defensive ends, that they're real deep there. I think the interior of the offensive line is ACC plus caliber. I don't think it's SEC plus caliber. And from there, I mean, Benson's a national championship contending kind of running back. Let's see what the tight ends are. That's really exciting. The possibilities perhaps are endless there.
Yeah.
So you get where I'm going with this.
So it's, we did a segment on this yesterday, Gene and I, about On3 ranking Jordan Travis the sixth best quarterback in the country with guys like Bo Nix and Michael Penix ahead of him, in the preseason rankings. And if you look at 2022 empirically through efficiency metrics and then also PFF, equally weighted all across the board, Jordan is a top 2 or top 3 quarterback. That's why the Heisman odds have him ranked as such as well. I think Vegas knows the thing or two. So my point about that would be, do you trust your quarterback to be the better player in just about every game you play this year? Yeah, short of facing USC in the semifinals, and I did say semis again. I feel pretty good about Jordan Travis being the better quarterback in the games that Florida State's going to play. Do you really trust your offensive coordinator? Yeah. Do you trust that they can find a way to produce even when there is a loss or at, let's just say, a marginal to a significant loss in the trenches, defensive line against your offensive line? They've already proven that. There's no guesswork there. They can do it.
Agreed.
So to me, at present, Florida State is better positioned this year than TCU was last year. More talent, and they've got better coaching and more explosiveness on offense. I think that's just a fact. The question comes down to the defense and how good can they be. The defensive rotation up front is something we've talked about at length in the previous segment. They're going to be better there. Where do they shuffle the bodies in the secondary, and how good can they be? Because if you can get off the field every once in a damn while, this offense should be enough to take you where you need to go to get to the playoff. And then, look, in the playoff itself, Ohio State gave Georgia everything that they could handle and more. They were the better team for the balance of the football game.
They should have won the game. That was the national championship.
Correct. And that was a team that got blown out at home by Michigan. So, and Michigan, of course, they played an awful game, but they lost to TCU. So I think this is closer to in touch than it has been, especially since Georgia doesn't have a quarterback that they know anything about as yet. I think this is closer to in touch than it might have been 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
Yeah, closer. We're not arguing that.
This is the legacy of college football and the transfer portal and COVID eligibility.
Yeah.
I think it brings everybody closer to the center. Now, the question is, when COVID eligibility runs out, do we go back to the old way of things, or does the transfer portal still mitigate it a little bit? We're going to shake it out and see over the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and remember, Michigan's a back-to-back playoff team. Florida State is not. The Ohio State team that you referenced has recruited in a way that Florida State hasn't.
Correct.
And that's why they were in a position to win the national title. They had the same level of talent as Georgia. Nobody else can say that. Not Michigan. I know Michigan won that game against Ohio State, but we know that's an outlier. Whatever it happened.
It was
my question for
destruction is what it was.
I have a sense that if they played again, it wouldn't look like that. But anyhow, it doesn't matter. The point is that also, by the way, that's another point. We could do this for a while, because my argument against Florida State is if somebody decides to give you a whole batch of what for on a given Saturday and they have the manpower to do it, as in I'm going to line up, I'm going to double tight this bitch and run right at you, and I don't think you have the horses to stop this. And they play with violence the way that Georgia plays with violence, or Ohio State can. And Michigan does sometimes. I don't know that Florida State has that. I don't know that they have the manpower to handle that.
Well, they better not have 2 empty possessions, because they could be down 10 points and chasing. And
that is a nice counter, and that's a fair counter. I don't know that we're going to go run roughshod over Georgia's defense throwing the ball around the lot. So, again, I'm trying to compare it to national championship level play. That's all. I'm not discounting how much better Florida State is now than they were. I'm not discounting how much better Florida State's chances are of making the playoff are. I'm not discounting that we should all have very high expectations and be enthused by that. I'm just saying now, if you transition like I have from I want to be good to I want to be great, as in I want to play for titles, now the bar is so much higher when you do that. That's all I'm saying. So you got to start looking at the creme de la creme and the depth of that talent. Are we there yet? I think we need another year or two. That doesn't stop me from thinking this team can win 11 games this year and go to the playoff.
Correct. I think I am still in the I'm happy we're here phase, and you are F that S. I want to win the whole thing. Yeah.
I'm moving on, baby. We've already established it. In hour number 2, Adam Fuller, the defensive coordinator, tasked with a lot of responsibility this year to get this defense continue to rise, continue to climb, if you will. He'll join us. You'll want to stay tuned for that. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Joe, Java, Brew, Go-Go Beans, Brainwater, Liquid Lightning, Wakey Juice, whatever you call your cup of coffee, you're missing out if it's not Grassroots Coffee. At grassrootscoffee.com, you'll find an easy way to order the best roasted coffee beans available. It's very simple. Choose the blend you want and how you want it ground, and the bag you receive will have the date your beans were roasted and packaged on it, all written by hand and signed by the roastmaster himself. You'll know that's as fresh as it gets. You can get Grassroots outside of your house also at some of your favorite restaurants in town. Next time you're out to eat, try asking for Grassroots Coffee by name, because there's a good chance they will have it for you. And if you own a business, Grassroots Coffee has options to stock your break rooms with all the productivity powder your team needs. Plus, like some other options that you'll find at work, Grassroots Coffee actually is a part of our community. Get to grassrootscoffee.com today and get yourself a treat. Some locally owned, locally roasted, and locally loved Grassroots Coffee.
Conferences to call away. 222-7722. Heating and cooling is the job we do. Parker Services. Conferences to call away.
Invest in a Peak Performance membership and you'll buy peace of mind in knowing that you're extending the life of your system and probably saving money on your power bill too. The program includes comprehensive tune-ups that keep your system running at its maximum efficiency. And Peak Performance members get many benefits, including priority service. Members jump to the front of the line when their comfort system fails. And a 15% discount on all parts. The Peak Performance membership pays for itself over and over again. Call today and have peace of mind. Florida license number CMC 050334.
Parker Services. Conferences to call away. Parker Services. Conferences to call away.
Whitten Glass has been taking care of families since 1945.
Experienced, reliable professionals who offer only the best, like Whitten's top-of-the-line bath enclosures. Eye-catching storefronts are a specialty at Whitten Glass, and they provide precise installation.
Whitten Glass, Tallahassee's first family in glass. Online at whittenglass.com. Call 850-222-5781.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Cookie wants to be a professional wrestler.
I'm Cookie Serratos, and I'm 11 years old.
She also wants to win all the medals. That's why Cookie and her family make every day count, squeezing out her best with Go-Go Squeeze.
Okay, Cookie, let's break for a Go-Go Squeeze.
Go-Go Squeeze Fruit on the Go pouches are a nutritious snack made from 100% fruit with no sugar added.
Go, Cookie!
Because when you nurture your kids, you squeeze out the best in them. Squeeze out the best with Go-Go Squeeze. Not a low-calorie food. Products range from 11 to 13 grams of sugar and 60 to 70 calories per serving.
The spring preview event has arrived with 50% off everything at Banana Republic Factory now through Tuesday, February 21st. Discover fresh styles for the season, rooted in denim and utility. Explore more at your nearest Banana Republic Factory store or online.
Attention small business owners. Did you know you may have overpaid your payroll taxes during COVID? A 10-minute call to Omega Accounting Solutions could save you thousands. Call 800-300-9ERC or visit OmegaTaxCredit.com.
The weather is unpredictable and can cause issues around your home. Weston Treywick provides commercial, residential, and industrial electrical wiring services, yearly inspections on fire alarms, portable generator sales, and so much more. With 24/7 emergency service and repair, Weston Treywick will be your calm in the storm. Give them a call at 514-0003. Weston Treywick, professional electrical services day or night. Visit online at westontreywick.com.
This is Ken Wondergem, owner of Gem Mazda Tallahassee. I'm happy to say that our lot is loaded with brand new Mazdas for the first time in over 2 years. But hurry in for the best selection while the value of your trade is still high. Get adventurous and connect with nature in a new 23 Mazda CX-50 all-wheel drive at Gem Mazda, where you get the highest quality of service and care. Gem Mazda of Tallahassee, Capitol Circle Northwest, just up from West Tennessee Street, and always open at gemmazda.com.
Jerry's Famous Cigar Shop is a special place. It's Tallahassee's only traditional gentleman's cigar lounge with a massive collection of hard-to-find boutique cigar brands, a staff with over 100 years of combined cigar knowledge and experience, the best prices in town with full box discounts, a great selection of beer and wine, indoor and outdoor seating, private lockers, and best of all, Jerry's is a local family-owned business. Visit us on Sherrill Road or the new lounge on Curry Forest Parkway, the only cigar lounge for the true gentleman.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. Find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Broadcasting live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hour number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3, Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. On a Ballsmic Wednesday, if you're just tuning in, Adam Fuller will join us this hour. In fact, it will be in the next segment. We'll have a chance to talk to Adam. Looking forward to talking to Florida State's defensive coordinator. A lot of roster and personnel upgrades and changes and expectations, that's for sure. So, as we mentioned in hour 1, really excited to talk to him about what possibilities lie in wait for Florida State as they get set for spring football practice. It'll be here before you know it, as we have our scheduled luncheon set up for next week and an opportunity, again, to pick the brains of the coaches and players before they get started in what should be a highly competitive spring football practice, series of practices, I should say. Tom noted it last hour. It is true. It's kind of nobody wants to not have spring break, Tom, but I have to admit it is a little bit of a tease to get a few days worth of practices only to have to stop for a week and then come back. But, it beats the alternative, I guess. I mean, something's better than nothing.
Well, yeah, and it gives you acclimation, too. You do your acclimation, you get it out of the way, and I think it's probably more valuable to take that break to the freshmen and the newcomers than it is to the veterans, and that'll be something I'm interested to see because of so many holdovers again. We saw it to kick off fall camp before the season opener against Duquesne, that those first couple of days were almost like mid-flow of camp level of intensity, speed in those practices, because they didn't have to teach a whole bunch of players new things. And so I would anticipate that spring is going to be from the jump Monday, March 6th, right in the flow, as though they've been doing this for weeks on end. If you're a freshman, though, I'm sure that that's got to be really daunting. We've already seen some of the newcomers that are here as early enrollees talk about how the tour of duty workouts, they look easy, and then I do them, and then they're really, really hard. That's going to be the same thing for camp. So when you come back from spring break, those kids will probably have a chance to say, whew, okay, this is what I need to bring every day, and you move forward from there.
The legacy of working really hard. A lot of times, guys that come in and help reshape your program, we bring up Jermaine Johnson a lot, but guys like him that come in and show you what it means to work hard. especially when you're learning how to win, is a very big deal. And we can talk a lot about leadership, sometimes I think too much, but there's where you see real leadership is when it's hard, when guys are really, really sucking wind and struggling to get through the days because they've never had to work that hard, especially if you're a newcomer who's a freshman. You just alluded to freshmen. Man, the first time you get to a college program and they take you through workouts, it's unlike anything you've ever done before in a lot of cases. Sometimes you're coming from a place that didn't have the facilities to make you to push you as hard as you could be pushed, or they didn't have the overall acumen as a staff to be able to do it. And most high schools aren't college staffs, of course. Not everywhere is IMG. So you don't know what it's like to have to work hard. It's funny, that's true at every level. I remember talking, a buddy of mine, Tommy Carter, I've mentioned him a lot. He played professional football for almost a decade, played at Notre Dame. When I ran into him after he had gone to the NFL, I think he was in year 2 when I ran into him, and I said, what's the biggest difference besides the speed? Because everybody talks about the speed, and that's true for high school kids going to college, just as it's true from college going to pro. And he said, man, the workouts are so efficient. I like it more. He said, we know exactly what we're doing all the time. It's all laid out. It is here to here to here. This is what you're going to eat. This is how hard you're going to work on this muscle group today. These are the movements we need you to perfect. We'll measure what percentage of that muscle you're using at this point. We'll go and we'll gravitate towards these goals. And you'll know with no uncertain terms, when I go into the facility today, this is what has to be done. It's a cool thing, but it's also really hard. These kids coming in now are going to get Coach Storms going over to them. He's going to assess who they are, what they're capable of, what they're not capable of, how much they need to eat, how much less they need to eat, depending on the person, obviously. And then he'll put them through the paces. And it's so cool to watch people transform, to learn what it means to work hard, but it's so much easier to learn that lesson when it's a player, a veteran player who takes you under his wing, who had to go through that same process. It's true of life, right? We hear our parents tell us stuff all the time. Later on, we learn that much of what they were telling us was accurate. At the time they were telling us when we were 14, 15, 16, you didn't want to hear that nonsense. There was no life's wisdom that had been shown to you at this point. And then later on, you go back and look at it. So it's so much easier when it's a peer, is what I'm getting at. When it's a peer, when it's somebody who's just 2 years removed from having done this, walking over to you and saying, hey, you know what, big guy, that ain't going to get it. That ain't going to get it. We got to do this, this, and this every day. If you want to get to where you want to go, which I know is the NFL, and we want to win championships around here, you got to put in the time. You got to put in the work. This is how that looks. And maybe he learned that lesson from some other veteran. And then that's when you build a culture. It's now. This is when you build a culture of championship level workouts, practices, and play. And so I think this is why coaches, they all love spring. I used to get annoyed. I remember going to spring football. Like, why do we care so much about spring? I mean, it's months before we play our first game. I mean, can we just slow our roll out here? No, man, this is when the habits are being built is what they'll tell you. I realize that now. I didn't realize it as a player.
Yeah, and it makes total sense. And Coach Norvell spoke to that when you had the one-on-one interview, that it's turning into a player-led program. And I think if this all works out, and it is trending heavily, it's minus, what do you think, 500 right now. This is going to work out for Mike Norvell.
Oh, yeah.
Some could say by definition the extension is proof that it already has worked out. It's just going to be interesting that when you write about it from the past tense perspective, it's like the transfer portal was able to substitute for the player-led program thing happening organically. It was able to speed up that process because when you bring in a ton of players through the portal, they all by nature have a chip on their shoulder and a motivation that they wouldn't otherwise because of whatever failure or whatever oversight that they believe happened in their past. That's why they're here. So I don't have to worry about whether Braden Fisk is motivated or Jamie Robinson was or Jermaine, Keir Thomas, Jordan Travis. You go down the list of all the transfers that have been here, and there are many of them, dozens of them. You don't have to worry about where their motivation comes from. And if it was still the old system where you couldn't bring in that many transfers, it might have taken an extra year or two to build that culture organically where players pass it down from the veterans to the younger guys. But this has kind of sped it up, and it'll be interesting to see the fruits of those labors come the Tour of Duty workout next Thursday that we get to go see, and then spring camp. But by all accounts, I don't think Mike Norvell would go and be effusive in saying that it's happening if it wasn't. I expect to see that kind of leadership and those moments that we've documented all too often. Dylan Gibbons pulling guys aside, Fabian Lovett, Jared Verse. You've seen that passing on of the knowledge. That's always cool to see, and these guys tend to like each other. We'll see what they're like this season, though, in terms of that camaraderie.
It's cool. You're naming one of the great aspects of the portal that gets overlooked a little bit there. It can be used as a cheat code. It can be used as a shortcut. Yeah. You are able to not have to wait on just the mere passage of time to insert player that's plus level. You could just go find him. He's right there, and he's coming in now. But what they have done, and you know this, and Adam Fuller, our next guest, has mentioned it to me, they've been very good with the vetting process because it can also be a nightmare. I don't look at it quite the same way that I used to look at junior college players. Every now and then when you look at junior college players, there was a diamond in the rough. There was a guy that, for whatever reason, maybe his school wasn't set up in a way that helped him academically or didn't help him or put him in a position where he could hit the ground running as he went off to university for the first time. And therefore, he met some resistance and struggled and had to go to a JUCO. And then he came in, but he was a good kid. He just didn't have the tools, got those tools through 2 years at JUCO and came in and hit the ground running. But a lot of times that wasn't the case at all. A lot of times you got kids who had real problems in their background, kids who didn't work hard, kids who did have real problems in the classroom, kids who struggled to get right on and off the field. And you were kind of taking a chance on a kid that was a junior college kid. And you took that chance based on percentage of risk. He runs a 4.3. I'll take a chance. Maybe it'll work out. He runs a 4.3. Maybe we can get something out of him. The portal's not that. It's clearly. And if you do it right, the way that Florida State has, you may be assuming no risk. If you have fully vetted that kid in the way that this group has, you may be assuming zero risk because you know what you have. Now, unless that kid is borderline a sociopath and looks you right in the eyes and was able to convince you of something otherwise. But these guys have proven they've done a good job of character as well as player assessment. I really think that that's where Florida State has had a distinct advantage, is that they've got guys that they can plug and play who do not disrupt the culture but elevate the culture.
Yeah,
that's a difference maker.
With NIL and the portal hand in hand, there's this thought that there's mercenaries only, and that's just not the case. You're looking for somebody who's motivated, yes, and is out to do the best by themselves, yes, but aren't we all?
Oh, yeah, you have to, yeah.
There's a fine line between being a mercenary and then being somebody who's motivated, and that's what this vetting process is all about for the coaching staff. The thing is, for them, just like anything else, it gets harder because we are attracting a better caliber of athletes. So in a sense, it's easier in a way to look at a 3-star or an unheralded player who's going to work really hard, because there are a bunch of those, and bring those into your program. But when you get to that level of separation between the pretty good, might be a bit of a project athlete, to the guy that everybody wants, that class, it's so much smaller, and you've got to be so much more precise and calculate, does the kid have any interest in staying in the state of Florida, coming to the state of Florida? He's got choices galore: Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Oklahoma, USC. Does he like us enough? And if so, is he a fit? And if there aren't enough of those guys, how do you find that balance? So the puzzle gets more difficult. It's now a 2,500-piece puzzle instead of a 500-piece puzzle. And we'll see if their evaluation can continue to go. But they've been so very good at it so far, bringing in guys that check all the boxes. Are they athletic enough? Yes. Are they smart enough? Yes. Are they going to be a problem? No. It's been really fun to see that. You got to duplicate it over and over and over again, though.
One of the architects, and one of those that they count on a lot to get that done right, is Adam Fuller. He's our guest next on the Jeff Cameron Show, the Florida State defensive coordinator. Coming up, stay with us. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
There's nothing like relaxing in a hot tub after a long day. But if you don't have one, you're truly missing out. Hot tubs and spas have tremendous health benefits, besides just helping you relax. Like improving your sleep, they help with pain relief. They help to better your cardiovascular health, and so much more. And this season is the perfect season to finally buy what you've been wishing for. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patio, and Spas has the hot tubs you need for the price you want. Come shop our huge 12,000 square foot showroom and save today. There's over 50 hot tubs in stock right now, so you won't have to wait weeks on end for that delivery to finally come to town. If you're ready to relax, we're here to show you how. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patios, and Spas. Come visit our huge showroom at 2473 Greer Road with over 50 hot tubs to choose from. You'll be glad you did.
July 9, 1755, near Fort Duquesne, now the city of Pittsburgh, a 23-year-old British officer leads his troops in battle during the French and Indian War. Though fired upon repeatedly, this young lieutenant colonel remains unharmed, to the disbelief of the native warriors. 15 years later, a respected chief sat over a council fire with this same man. As he told all those listening, the Great Spirit protects this man and guides his destiny. He will become the chief of nations, and a people yet unborn will hail him as the founder of a mighty empire. The man was George Washington, who went on to become the commander-in-chief of the Continental Army and the first president of the United States.
Celebrating our nation's quest for freedom. Whitten Glass on South Monroe. For mirrors, shower enclosures, and window glass, call 222-5781. And Sellers Tile on Capitol Circle Northeast. For tile, carpet, hardwood, and luxury vinyl, call 656-8453.
So let's say you're considering buying a new home in the current climate. We've all heard that demand is high, inventory is low. So how do you get a leg up on the rest of the buyers all making offers on the same house as you? Oh, that's a toughie. But the first place I'd suggest you start is with a call to my friend Shannon at Legendary Home Loans. Shannon will set you up with a complete pre-approval underwriting. This used to be an upgrade, but nowadays it's got to be standard. You want to get your offer on a new home pushed to the front of the line, you need a TBD full underwriting approval from Legendary Home Loans. You'll shorten or even remove your financing contingency, and the sellers will know that your offer is real and ready to go. It's tough out there these days, folks, so why not have the advantage of a proven winning team in your huddle? Get pre-approval underwriting from my friend Shannon with the one and only Legendary Home Loans. Call now, 844-FSU-LOAN, 844-FSU-LOAN, or just visit FSUHomeLoans.com. FSUHomeLoans.com.
Equal housing lender. NMLS number 2270146.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Welcome back to the Jeff Cameron Show, sponsored by Legendary Home Loans, a mortgage experience designed around speed, simplicity, and customer service. Before you buy your next home, contact our friend Shannon Young with Legendary Home Loans. Visit FSUHomeLoans.com. FSUHomeLoans.com.
Welcome back, Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. As we mentioned last hour, and again at the beginning of this hour, we're very excited to welcome in Florida State defensive coordinator Adam Fuller. He joins me now on the program, and as always, we thank you for your time, Coach. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Jeff. How are you?
Great. I'm really looking forward to spring. How excited are you about spring, man? The competition's going to be intense. You've got depth for the first time in a long time at almost every position. You got newcomers. Are you as enthusiastic, one would assume, as I am about watching this thing play out?
Yeah, be honest with you, with where we're going in our direction right now, the foundation that we've created, I'm excited about every dang day we've been here right now. I mean, we finished that bowl game, and about a week later, we got started on the 23 season. And, we've got a great group of young guys that, I don't want to say they know what it takes, but there's a history of our structure put in place right now. And, I'm just really excited about, each day there's a trust level now, and the push is there.
I'll get to the players, Coach, because we've got a lot to document here. But really quickly, let's start with the newest addition to the staff and Patrick Surtain. What stood out to you in the interview process? What were you looking for, and what excites you the most about adding him to the staff?
Jeff, when you have to make a hire, somebody, on our staff, there's 10 full-time coaches. When it comes, there's always a list. And so, when this went down with Marcus, me and Mike spoke, and, he kind of asked me my opinion, what my list was. And we both kind of listened to each other of just, I'll come up with 2 names and he may have 1 name, and, we'll go back and forth. And then he'll say, all right, why don't you, you start the process with the guys that you want to start the process with. And, we had gotten going maybe a couple of days, and it just came to my mind about Pat. I had met him when he was at Heritage. Obviously, we recruited a bunch of kids from there. I knew Josh Boyer, the former defensive coordinator for the Dolphins. I knew Brian Flores when he was there. So, I called Josh, about Pat, and, and he spoke, just really high regards about him. And we knew it would be a great recruiting fit. We knew it would be a great regional fit. And so I called Mike, and Mike said, I think that's a great thought. And so now it's just about me getting to know Pat, and they were still playing. So, that offered its own timing issues, but, we made sure to carve out different hours of time throughout the day for a couple of days there. So just so that me and him could really get to know each other. And, it felt good knowing that I had people that I knew in the past that had worked with him. We knew from a recruiting standpoint, and then just the personality was I had to get through that and make a connection there. And, that happened very quickly for me and him. And so, went to Mike, thought it was a go, and we made the hire and the offer.
Moving from him added to the staff to player personnel, Coach, you lose Jamie Robinson at safety. What are you hoping to learn this spring about that position group? And I don't know, might there be some position changes in order to help out there?
Yeah, I think importantly, we're always trying to grow, especially in the back end, some position flexibility. At the end of the season, we had Kevin Knowles playing free safety for some snaps, and that's not ideally where I want to put Kevin, but it just shows you that we got to be prepared for those moments. Akeem Dent used to be a starting corner here. Renato Green used to be a starting safety. And so that flexibility is important to me. But also, you got to create roles. I think as soon as you can create some roles, and even if the role is flexibility, it's all part of trying to adjust and adapt. But I'm going to move I'm going to move Duke Cooper back to safety this spring. That'll create some competition, but also a place that, similar to Akeem's move, that I think could offer some real highlighted featured plays by Duke. I think he's a smart, reliable player. I think we've got some depth at corner, and there's just a lot of factors that go into, I think, him developing a really niche in our program at that spot. And add him in with Akeem, add him in with Shaheem, and then with the young guys and Travis J and trying to build that depth there. But even now in the offseason, we're working through with Renato Green, we're working through with Jarian Jones, we're working through with Azarie Thomas at nickel. And whether that's all going to end there, I don't know, but it's all, part of building that flexibility, but also honing in on the details of the spots.
Yeah, in the sense of flexibility and getting the best guys on the field, your best players, Coach. Any other position changes throughout that defense that we need to know about heading into spring, or anything that you feel comfortable discussing in that regard?
Yeah, not really. Obviously, we're going to kick Dennis Briggs back inside for the most part, but that does get flexible. I'm looking at some 4, even if we were putting some 3 defensive tackle packages on the field. We've played some 3 defensive end packages on third downs a lot, but now just with some of our depth inside of, just some some 5 D-line packages, just some different ways to offer flexibility for the personnel that we've acquired, developed, and just that's all the excitement of building towards this new team.
Coach, I thought, just tell me if you think I'm wrong, I thought late in the season, you just mentioned Dennis. I thought he looked a lot better real late in the season than he did early. And obviously, when you're coming off an injury, we know where he was projected to go. This was a kid that was really kind of moving up, and I thought had a chance to be a great football player. Was I wrong in my observation to think he looked much better late in the year, looked more like himself late in the year than he did early in the season, obviously coming off that injury that he suffered against Louisville?
Yeah, I think you're right on, Jeff. I think the bowl game was one of his better games. since pre-injury 2 years ago. And so, these guys get cleared and they get, some surgeries and they got things done to their bodies that they got to adjust with. And, some of it comes with confidence. Some of it comes with the physical adjustments. But Dennis has had a really good set of a couple weeks right now in workouts. And I've always felt highly of Dennis. I think his skill set with his size, his intelligence, who he is as a young man, I think he's part of the answer here at Florida State as far as playing dominant football. And, he's definitely somebody that I think will have a really good year. I thought he definitely had a more productive end of the year than he did at the beginning of the year. Some of that had to do with just probably coming back from the injury. Some of it had to do with just moving him around on the defensive front. But I think he fits a lot of the hits that you're looking for at that position and as a person.
Let's look at the newcomers, Coach. Start with the transfers. Your thoughts on Fentrell Cypress, Braden Fisk. I'll let you go through all of them. Gilbert Edmond, Daryl Jackson, those guys. I know fans are excited to hear about those players.
Yeah, you could start up front. And, Daryl, I feel like that, that was the first school I went to when I got the job here. I went to see Corey Fuller. He was the head coach at Gadsden County. And obviously Josh Farmer was there and Daryl was there. And, we made a decision early on to go on Josh. He was one of the first commitments we had here. And then obviously Daryl went a different direction and now it came full circle and we've got him back home. And, I think we're really fortunate to have him. I mean, I think he's got, an extremely high ceiling, and you've seen tremendous, you talk about growth by individuals that have been in the program for a while. His growth of day one of workouts to where it is now, he's as improved as anybody in our football program. And I'm saying that by somebody that's played 2 years of college football. And so, when you were able to bring a person where his heart is and his family is, and then be able to see that growth tangibly on a football field, I'm excited. I think he'll offer us something that is important, just a force in the middle of the defense that can demand double teams, but athletic enough to win all single blocks. The other one that we brought was Braden Fisk. Braden's a little bit, coming back from an injury, but he's everything we wanted. I mean, he's over 300 pounds right now, and he's locked in on every detail that we're trying to push on him. And, he's somebody that will bring a lot of impact, I think, on the defensive front. And then Gilbert, Gilbert was another person. We recruited him right when he got here. It was kind of fast recruiting. We had, quick decisions. And he ended up going to South Carolina, had a couple good years, had a really productive year last year. Good frame, good athleticism. Football's still a little bit new to him, but to see the growth and through the recruitment of, when Gilbert talked to me and said, just when games would end, how quickly he would go and, watch himself and the things that he was able to tell me about his own game, show a lot of insight for a young football player. And, he's going to be a guy that's going to be immediately thrust into our rotation. And I think he's got a really high ceiling. I think he's got a chance to be a really good player. In the back end, Fentrell, just the first time I talked to him, he was our type of young man. I mean, he's a diligent worker, smart, family oriented person, and just, everybody you talked over at UVA had great things to say about him, even when he's leaving. So, and then his production spoke for itself. That was a tough year over at UVA for all different reasons. But, to see Fentrell consistently show up and be a playmaker, and he showed up here and, he was a little bit, it took a little bit of adjustment for him, but I mean, he's everything that I knew he was that time that I flew down there to Charlottesville to go see him for the first time. So, I think we've done a good job of bringing in good fits here, and looking forward to see how that looks like out on the field.
Yeah, Coach, I think you've hit on a formula. You and I talked about it last year before the start of the season. I asked you the question about the things you're looking for in the transfer portal, and you guys have a set of parameters. It can't just be that they're a good football player. It has to be a bunch of other things. And then, this is a national story where people will talk about Florida State and how well Florida State has done in the portal. You have to be really proud of the fact that you guys have an idea of what you're looking for. And it's not just athleticism. It's not just a need. It's one of many things. I won't ask you to go through the entire checklist, but one of the reasons that the culture has been really good is because the newcomers that you've brought in haven't upset the apple cart, but rather pulled it in the right direction.
Yeah. I mean, there's no question. I mean, you got to get the inside of the locker room right before you worry about what's going to happen when they leave the locker room, because that's the place they go back to. That's the place they start each day. That's the place they end each day. And just everybody's not going to be the same personality wise. But if you can create and just recruit the same mindset throughout 110, 115 people in the locker room, and that goes, from your star players to your walk-ons. I mean, they're all, as long as they're all like-minded and all improvement driven, you got a chance and care about others. I think that's a big part of it. The selfless of the individuals is really, where this locker room starts. We've been able to recruit guys on both sides of the ball that have kind of fit into that equation. And, now it's just about, the workouts are great because that is able to create some continuity and some work ethic and their own struggles. But when you get on that field and you really have to rely on other people doing their job for you to be able to do yours because it impacts you, I think that's when you can really connect a lot of those relationships.
Final couple things here, Coach. Who are some of the younger players who played a year ago that you think have a chance to take a big leap forward and earn more reps coming up this fall? Guys that you saw a lot of in their first year and you feel good about them taking the next step?
Well, Jeff, we're getting to a point in our program now that it's that's not a tough question because, you've got guys like Shaheem Brown that played over 300 snaps. But with Jamie moving on and just with his development, Shaheem, I think he's going to be a major impact player in the nation next year. I think he's got that skill. I think he's got that mindset. So, that's somebody that I don't know if he's new to it, but I think, is really important to us. I think in the secondary is Zaire Thomas. He again played over 300 snaps as a true freshman. But we've had a couple of DBs that come in here as freshmen, Duke Cooper and Kevin Knowles, then Shaheem as a redshirt freshman, and now Zaire that have all hit. And I think, we've got a chance to see another better year from Azaria. At linebacker, Omar Graham's the one I'll bring up because he didn't play. He played in, a lot of time allotted games when we were up late, but, he was somebody that we were really high on when he came out of Stranahan High School, and we're still really high on him. And, he finds the ball finds him, and he's got the skills and he's got the mindset and he's got the personality and he's just got the skills. And so I think, putting him up there with that top group this spring is important to me. I spoke with Coach Shannon, that's a move that he's going to get thrust into the action. And I think we'll like what happens from there. Up front, we already saw the Patrick Payton, when we made that push to get him involved. And just saw him grow. Josh Farmer, the first time we had to play him in because of injuries, but then as the season went on, when guys came back, we still saw his time be able to play through. So those are important guys. And then a guy like Daniel Lyons, who, he's like Omar that didn't play much, not like Azaria, but we see there's a lot of potential there for him. He's put on good weight. He's over 305 pounds now, and he's always been a good mover, and he's somebody that I think there's a lot of good football in.
Final thing, Coach, and I'll let you go. I know you're busy. Big picture stuff here as we sign off. What's the area on your defense where you thought you had the most amount of success and areas in which you think you need to see improvement?
Yeah, I think, the most success was just, every year we've gotten better. We've gotten better in what I consider just watching us play and what defense needs to look like. And we've made a lot of strides in just playing better connective defense. And, that shows up statistically, but it shows up more so in just the work in day to day. I think we've made a lot of strides in just attacking the passer. We graduated 2 really good defenses the year before, and we replaced it, with a couple other good players this past year. And I thought we've gotten good production out of that. I thought we did a good job of limiting explosives with how we had to play last year. And I thought our guys did a good job. Every time you give up one, that's too many. But I thought we did a pretty good job of keeping the ball in front of us. I thought we started to turn up our pressure a little bit more last year, just number-wise. But, it's something that we're continuing. We want to. Attacking isn't always just with certain ways, like certain pressures. It's a mindset. But, I think there were times that, I really thought that we could handle the adjustments and the pressures that we wanted to start to get to. And I think each year that stuff just starts to build. And I think just the more we can do this time of year, the more our kids will be ready to tackle what shows up in the fall. And I just think with the depth that we have returning and, guys with good experience, I think we can put a lot more on their plate, and just excited about the entirety of the group.
Coach, appreciate the time. I'll see you next week. The luncheon, we get going. It's all ready to be a big part of the daily conversation around here. Appreciate you as always, Coach.
Appreciate your support. See you guys.
All right, be good.
Bye.
That's the defensive coordinator at Florida State, Adam Fuller, kind enough to join us here on the Jeff Cameron Show, and we'll be back, react to that momentarily. 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV.
Barry knows cool, he's keeping you comfortable. Barry knows cool, you can put him to the test.
This is Tyler from Bear No Heating and Air. Now you can schedule an appointment or pay your bill from your mobile device. Any day, anytime, anywhere.
Save big time in the new year and get $1,200 off select new units.
Online at BearNoAC.com.
Keeping you comfortable is what Barry does best.
Florida license CAC 1816-186.
My man Eddie.
Jeff, what's happening, dude?
Bears eating people all over the place. I read another article today. It's the third one in the last month of somebody getting mauled to death by a bear.
Man, bears have their own space. You got to let them have that.
You do. You got to stay clear of bears, is what you're saying?
Yes.
I got a question for you. Here you go. If you had to be mauled to death, eaten alive by any animal in the world, which would you choose to eat you alive?
Ooh, I think maybe I'd want, I don't know, longevity time, a mouse?
Just a slow burn.
Slow burn.
This thing just finished the pinky. It's been a month.
I could go to work. I could still do my thing. I could probably live 30 years.
I thought you were going to say great white because it'd be quick, or a grizzly. We went with mouse.
Yeah, mouse.
Okay. Mouse it is. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah, that's Greg.
You know all the different ways that you can listen to Real Talk 93.3?
There are several.
So we've got realtalk93.com. You can go back and listen to all of our shows in the podcast section.
That's right. You can also listen on our app as well.
Search Real Talk 93.3 and look for the red microphone and download our app. Never go anywhere without us.
And, of course, you can always listen right on the radio.
Well, they are listening.
Are they?
If they're hearing this commercial, then they're listening.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that.
The Greg Tish Show, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m., only on Real Talk 93.3. The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
Once again, our thanks to Adam Fuller, D.C., Florida State University. Really good conversation, I thought, as always, and something I like about him and really this coaching staff, quite frankly. Their candor is greatly appreciated. We were able to ask some direct questions, got some direct answers there, and that was very much appreciated. So the big news that we can take from that interview certainly is that Duke Cooper moving to safety. And I'm not surprised necessarily. I thought that's why I asked the question. Kind of thought they might have to do something regarding the safety position. I think the other part of that, Tom, as we react to the interview, is that is lofty praise for Shaheem Brown. And I love Shaheem, and I'm not surprised about that either. But the way in which he went out of his way to tell you that he thinks he can be a star, that he thinks he's going to be one of the better players in the secondary in the country. So that was exciting to hear. Shaheem's got the work ethic. He's got the athleticism. He's got a whole lot of intuition and instinct about the game. He's a hard hitter. He plays fast. That's exciting. You can see why they're really excited about what they have to work with this year.
If he's the guy that replaces Jamie Robinson, at least positionally, it's going to be tough to do so in terms of production and impact. Like, he could be an impact player and still not be as good as Jamie Robinson was for stretches of the last couple of seasons. That means that you're going to have a knockdown, drag-out battle at safety between Akeem Dent and Omarion Cooper. And we'll see if there's anybody else who enters the fray. But you take Omarion out of the corner conversation and you move him to safety. You love Shaheem. That means it's Dent, Cooper there. And then the corner battles that you're going to have on the outside, Deuce Cypress is the nickname that he was given originally, but Fentrell is what he wants to be called. Fentrell Cypress is going to be one of those answers, we think. Certainly wasn't any backing off of praise from Adam Fuller for Cypress in that interview. Then it's Azarie versus Greedy Vance for the slot with Kevin Knowles. Jarion gets in the conversation there, and maybe some of the younger kids. Interesting. I feel like it is more fleshed out than before we talked to Adam Fuller in terms of what we can expect for position battles in spring. I thought there would be cross-training galore, but if he's willing to say that Omarion Cooper is going to be at safety for the balance of spring, then okay, that's one place that you can look at and know before we go there on March 6th, that's what you're going to see. Now it just comes down to the corner battles.
Yeah, and he's obviously got Azarie as the nickel corner. That was interesting as well. And then I think something else to take away is the fact that my hunch about Dennis Briggs was right. And listen, Darrell Jackson is clearly a guy that he thinks is going to start. I mean, it sounds like he thinks he's going to be a huge contributor and that maybe Braden Fisk is going to take some time. I'm not surprised to hear that too. Coming off the injury, a big, strong kid. He's got the requisite weight. To me, if you were going to bet on who is of more value early in the season in terms of reps and you see out there more often, Darrell Jackson high on that list. Braden Fisk going to take some time.
Well, yeah, and certainly if not early in the season, then early in the coverage of what we're doing and what the media is doing in general as we're covering spring, because you can only report on the guys who are able to participate up and down. It sounds like they're at least, not expecting that Braden's going to be up to the same level that Darrell Jackson is. And Darrell's only a junior, a true junior, which is good. But it could be a money year for him. So again, it's so much fun when you break down these things and you take a look at transfer portal, motivation. They've got motivation across the board at all these positions, not just to play and get more reps, but there's a money year element for so many of these guys. Fisk is in his final year of eligibility. So is Fabian Lovett. So it's self-evident there. But across the board on this defense, Duke Cooper's got a crap ton to prove in 2023. If he's moving positions, that's really, he's got everything to prove about what he's going to be as an NFL potential prospect. And I didn't even say Renardo Green's name when I was talking about corner. So if Renardo didn't come up as a position change, that means that Fentrell and Renardo could be on the edges at corner, and then Azarie is the answer closer to the football in the slot. That squeezes out Kevin Knowles, who has a lot to prove this campus. It's just, you can see the pieces moving now and the challenge that's being issued across the board. This is fun.
He mentioned that they played Kevin late in the year at safety, and that quote, that's not necessarily where I want him. Yeah. So, that was a point to make, that they're trying to, in essence, have flexibility, but it's also perhaps his way of saying that that's not what he's best suited to do and that they have found other answers. So Knowles is going to have a great spring. I think it's an important spring for Kevin Knowles in order to sustain the rep counts that he's been getting.
But the problem is he's coming off of an injury, and we'll see if he's 100%.
That's true.
So you lose valuable time, and this is how you get passed over. This is, so there is urgency across the board here, and here's the one, little cog in the wheel that doesn't fit perfectly right now. You've got a new defensive backs coach who's going to have ideas of his own too. Like, this is the guidance from above from the defensive coordinator as we enter spring. But Patrick Surtain's going to be empowered to take a look at these things and perhaps experiment himself. This might be the consensus that they've come to, but defensive back moves change all the time and positions change all the time. So this is a timestamp for now. This is what we're going to cover for that first week of spring and coming back from spring break, certainly at practice. But it'll be interesting to see how it all pans out, because what if Surtain sees something different in a player like a Renardo or Duke Cooper? It's going to be fun. This is there's no shortage of storylines specifically in the secondary, but this whole defense is the key to pushing Florida State over the finish line towards the playoff.
I will not ignore the fact that the name Travis J was on the man's lips.
Yeah.
He said Travis J as well. And so, every time we're looking for that glimmer of hope that something's going to be made of the immense talent that Travis J has, you get a little bit of a nugget. You get a kernel. He wouldn't have mentioned him if he wasn't part of the plans. He wouldn't have mentioned him if he didn't think he had a shot. He threw it out there on his own. I didn't ask about Travis J. So it's like, all right, he's become kind of my pet cause. I'd like to see something become of Travis J. And I think that's everybody who loves Florida State and who has a glimpse of this kid's athleticism, who saw him play in high school, who got a glimmer here and there when he was on the field for us even of, that works. Wasn't sustainable, other problems off the field. Mm-hmm. But that height, that weight, that reach, that athleticism, if there's a way, you hope Patrick Surtain and Adam Fuller can get it out of him this year and be part of the rotation, be part of something that matters for this defense. I think that all of this, really the larger conversation that we've had today, that we've had about Florida State's efforts to become a national championship caliber football program team, perhaps this year making the playoff, high end of our hopes, really lies the weight of that responsibility is going to be on the defense. It's an afterthought that this offense is going to be good. We could be wrong. Sometimes every year is unto itself. You never know. Maybe they have some problems, but honestly, it's just hard to envision what those are going to be. All you've done is get better on offense. All you've done is add more weapons on offense. You've gotten a better offensive line, a deeper offensive line. You've got a loaded backfield. You've got a returning quarterback who's already proven himself. You've got wide receivers and depth and versatility at the position. Is it an elite receiving corps? No. Is it a plus receiving corps in the ACC? Yes. So really this all turns to the defensive side of the ball. And Adam's got to be excited. I know he sounded excited, and he's got some options.
Yeah, I think this is I won't divert all the way to the offense, but I think this is a plus receiving corps against the country, the curve of the country. Now, is it elite amongst playoff contenders? No, but they're so versatile there. That's going to be a fun thing to cover, especially when you add in the receiving ability of the tight ends to the mix. But we had prepped and talked about perhaps bringing a question to the attention of Adam Fuller regarding the running game. He answered that earlier, the rush defense, to be specific. He answered that early. Did you notice that he talked about multiple fronts?
He got out in front, and that's what I was wondering about was, will we show more multiple fronts? And it looks like that's the plan.
It makes a ton of sense, though. If you have a Lovett and a Fisk and Jackson, who he really likes, then Farmer and Lyons and so forth, Tafasi, you've got a lot of talent in that defensive interior. He says we've used 3 defensive end fronts before, and that makes a whole lot of sense. They're also sliding Dennis Briggs back to the inside. I find that curious. Okay. If you're going to have a multiple defensive interior lineman front, then Dennis Briggs would certainly be a part of that equation because he's more agile. He's quicker in case you need, on a play fake or a situation like that. You don't want 3 dudes that look like Robert Cooper or who are just there to neutralize. But it makes a lot of sense given the personnel they have that you could see Jared Verse plus 3 interior guys on the field at the same time. Or, he said, even a 5-down lineman front, which, okay, that makes a whole lot of sense too. If you're going to have 2 linebackers and you're going against a run-heavy opponent, maybe like Pitt on the road later in the year, nice to know that they're planning ahead for those types of matchups.
Back when I played, Tom, we called that the old 5-2.
The old 5-2.
Run that 5-2, and I love me a 5-2, which is really a 3-4, but that's all right. We run a 5-2, and I loved it. And yes, to say you want to shut down the running game, here we go. Let's get back to calling things what they are, man. Stop with all this Fox and Robber nonsense. Here we go.
Well, if you're running a 5-2, then Briggs could be on the end opposite Jared Hurts, and it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, right?
Yeah. I love it. So that was fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you missed it and you're joining us late, go back, get caught up. Don't be late next time, damn it. Let's segue nicely into a Tub Talk, Tom. I want to hear those bubbles loud and clear and thank our friends at Pinch a Penny for helping out. Here we go.
It's time for Tub Talk, brought to you by Pinch a Penny Pools and Spas. Buy yourself the hot tub you've always wanted at the price you've always wanted from Pinch a Penny on Greer Street. Now, it's live to the tub.
Tom, as we sit in the tub, I thought about bringing up this ugly, ugly situation in Alabama with Brandon Miller and bringing the gun that's used in a shooting, kills a woman, a mother, a 5-year-old child, and the coach's subsequent comments.
Tub Talk, brought to you by Pinch a Penny Pools and
Doubling
Spas.
down on it.
Bye.
I thought of that. Then the Alabama coach saying what he said, looking like an ass. Not real sure I'm going to be able to see him survive those comments, those, as he put it, regrettable comments. You think? You think those are regrettable? All to try to win some basketball games, my man.
And that they called Ray Lewis to deal with the issue?
What?
I couldn't believe that. So yesterday, we were out and about, and I just sat down. I was waiting for something. My wife was going to get something at the counter at the store, and I read the tweet from, I think it was Nicole Auerbach from The Athletic, who remarked that Nate Oates said that when they had an issue internally and they wanted to look for help with a murder, that they contacted Ray Lewis to help with the fallout from the murder.
I got to think Ray was not appreciative of that either. He's like, guys, I'm trying to stay on the down low. We don't need all of this. I don't bring my name back up in this. It's like when Tiger Woods handed Justin Thomas what he handed him.
Right.
I'm like, Tiger, okay, look, am I offended? No. Will people race to their keyboards to be offended? Yes. But, dude, have some wherewithal. With your track record, my man, what are we doing? You can stay out of the lane. You don't have to go there. Ray's got to be like, fellas, I'm not taking that call. And God dog it. Let's not tell the world you called me. What are we doing here? But I was going to bring that up. I'm not going to bring that sordid situation to the table here in Tub Talk. I'm not. I'm going to merely point out that here we sit a long ways removed. And I remember it very clearly. You were still 6 years away from being born, but of course you know of the situation. Today in 1980, the United States pulled off the greatest upset in sports history. Do you believe in miracles? Occurred on this date, and Lake Placid, as it were, over Russia. The documentaries have been great. The books have been awesome. The moment in time has been certainly captured in a movie that is well done. Do you know that every time I watch that highlight, the last really 3 minutes of the game, and Al Michaels had transcended to another level of broadcast excellence and is forever known for the signature call, do you believe in miracles? Yes. All of that. That one of the things that strikes me is that as 5 seconds, do you believe in miracles? And then obviously the sticks get thrown and the whole thing is incredible. And you just see the Russian players in shock that just happened. They lose 4-3. The United States goes nuts. Eruzione racing back to Craig, the shot of the father crying in the stands, which makes me cry, the whole thing, right? It's awesome. One of my favorite parts of that, every time I rewatch it, is what a class act Brooks was, to leave to let them have their moment. How incredible is it? He watches. There's a couple of different angles, but the one angle is he's watching their celebration. He's trying not to cry. He's about to, and he knows it. And he doesn't want to be seen for that reason. He doesn't want to take attention away. He just jets down the concourse into the locker room. It's their time. They did everything I asked of them. It's their time. Dude, that is an underrated moment. How many times do you watch I'm not blaming coaches. We all get excited and celebrate in our own way. But he knew enough to know and had enough wherewithal in the moment, the magnitude of what just happened.
Yeah, and that also is a moment of, I've done my job. This is their reward.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be the absolute insert epithet, insert bad word here. If I'm going to be that kind of a jerk to my team, then I can't be front and center when they do what I ask them to do.
Correct.
You have a balance to you, and that's nice because a lot of these guys don't have the balance to them. They're hard asses, and then they're the ones that race to the front of the camera and smile for it and get in the way of their players.
It's one of the reasons that we all love Leonard Hamilton. Go back and watch upset victories over Duke or you name it, to go to the Elite Eight, whatever it might be, and the calm walk over to the other coaches. His players are celebrating. No attention towards me, please. I'm leaving now.
Watch him on senior day when parents surprise their kids and tell me that man doesn't have the biggest heart.
Oh, yeah.
Of any coach we've had here in some time.
It's fantastic. It's certainly fantastic. Good work out of you, sir. Good work, Director Matthew. Our thanks to the Florida State defensive coordinator, Adam Fuller, for his time. Always appreciate that. And to all of you, be well. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace.